As a youth, Roger Hedge had no particular ambition. Then one day, he went to the pictures. Well, it didn't happen quite like that for Roger. But he did get into the oil business. And like James Dean, he did become a millionaire.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very professional.
With over £20 million to his name, Roger Hedge now takes regular holidays in the Caribbean. But unlike most of the other millionaires who come here to relax, this is where he started out.
My father was a trade commissioner, so he was a diplomat in Jamaica. And I remember quite distinctly going to Jamaica, and it was such a tremendous experience of going from absolutely cold temperatures in England to getting off the plane almost like stepping into a blast oven. That night we went to bed in the new house that we'd got, and I remember very distinctly thinking, this is also very strange, crickets all night and waking up and hearing them. It was strange. And then the following morning when we got up, we'd got our own swimming pool, and I was keen on swimming, and I'd got all of my badges as a youngster for swimming so many lengths, and then half a mile and then a mile. I thought, oh, this is great, our own swimming pool. And of course I was in the pool, so I was in my element for more or less the day that I arrived. And we had our own beach. We just walked across the road, and we could literally swim 30 yards out, and we had our own reef, and we could catch lobsters off it. So that was equally fun. I mean, I didn't do an awful lot of schoolwork. I did go to school, but it was out of school that all the fun times were really had. I mean, as kids, we used to get 45-gallon oil drums and make rafts and find derelict boats and fix them up. So it was a lot of fun. My father one day came and said, we're leaving. And I said, we're leaving? Why, where are we going? And he said, we're going to Birmingham. And I immediately said, oh, Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, that ought to be fun. He said, no, Birmingham, England. And I said, oh, I don't know about that. I don't think I want to go there. Not that I knew anything about Birmingham, of course, but at the time I think I was 16 years old and had to come back with them. My father always said that, well, you can always come back when you're older if you've enjoyed it that much. However, it wasn't to be. I settled with my roots in England, and it was probably a good thing for me.
And it was. Today, Roger flies himself to his pipe-fitting businesses all over the country, then back home to his £2 million house near Birmingham. But when he left school, he had no idea what he wanted to be.
I think probably what inspired me to go into the business that I'm in is watching a film called Giant with James Dean in. James Dean was probably one of my heroes in certain respects.
I'm sick and tired of his prospecting, and I want him out of here.
He's barred about all he could. He's down to his last collar button, Vic.
I watched Giant, and I thought that was the first I probably ever knew about the oil industry.
Buy him out and get him out of here.
I watched him in the film Strike Oil and thought it was tremendous. I thought, oh God, that's a good idea. And then I always thought it must be great to work in the oil industry.
You should have shot that fellow a long time ago. Now he's too rich to kill.
Any similarity between Giant and Roger's career ends here. His fortune didn't come in a rush. He started as a lad in a Birmingham factory.
Before I took my O-levels, I took my mock GCEs. I think I passed either 4 or 5. And before I actually took my proper O-levels, I got this job, which was working in a car component factory, which I enjoyed, and I only got the job, I think, because I was the only person out of about 40 applicants that said, "Can I see the factory?" And when I went down into the factory, because I was a youngster, obviously interested in cars, I could go, "Oh, that's the toggle off a Mini, that's the so-and-so off this car." And I think that impressed them, and I managed to get the job. And along the way, there was a garage next door, and I used to sort of mosey over there and see what cars they got in. And one day I was round there and I met this man with a vintage Bentley, and had a chat to him about his car, which was very nice. A couple of days later I went round to the garage, and the proprietor who owned it said, "Oh, the man that you were talking to, he wants to give you a job." I said, "Which man?" He said, "The man with the Bentley."
The job we offered him was really a basic job of starting from scratch, learning about the basics of engineering, the pipeline engineering, seeing purchasing, how we handle purchasing, how we handle manufacturing, the attitude towards customers, which is so very important in those days. And it was a thorough training from the base upwards.
Once I got into a job, I started to understand what it was all about, buying and selling, and the difference between was the profit.
We knew instinctively, both my brother and our general manager, we knew instinctively we were not the last port of call in his life.
Roger's next step was to a company making pipes. He soon showed himself to be a super salesman and demanded a rise.
And they asked me what my intentions were. So I said to them, "Well, what's your intentions? Are you going to change my salary level? Give me a company car?" "No, we can't do anything. It's the same old story. You were the most highly paid person on your level." To which I said, "I'm not interested in levels. I'm interested in what I'm producing for you." So they said they couldn't. So I said, "Well, you really leave me with no alternative. I'm going to leave." And which I did. They said, "Well, you better clear out your desk. We'll make sure that we see you out of business within a month." So I said, "Well, if you can, you'll have to try." Anyway, as it turned out, they did me the best favour ever.
Today, Roger's company, SSE Pipe Fittings, is the biggest of its kind in the country.
Have these ones been rounded off or not?
He also owns a property company, a computer firm, and 2 office blocks. With the profits, he built this.
When I had it built, someone happened to be passing the house, they said, and they offered me 1.5 million for it on the spot. Well, of course, I hadn't even moved in at that time, so I certainly wasn't going to sell it. It's got areas in it that can be quite cosy if you want. It's got larger areas if you want to entertain. I like having reasonable amounts of space to me. There's very little in the house that I would actually change, even now if I was designing it all over again.
All the wood you see in this house is solid mahogany.
It certainly wasn't a cheap project to do, and I'd hate to think how much it would cost to redo it today. I think the price of mahogany has gone through the roof. We were very fortunate as well that we had very traditional craftsmen, took a real pride in their work, and I think it might be actually quite difficult to do the same thing all over again. I decided that I wanted a hall that went all the way up to the ceiling to give the feeling of this openness and airiness and space, and that it would be very nice to have a crystal chandelier. So I got a company in Venice to supply all the glass and the frames, make up all the frames at the dimensions we wanted, and then they shipped it to England for me. And then I remember one night in particular actually putting all the glass onto the chandelier myself, and it's on a winch and it comes down to the floor, and I thought this will be about an hour to do this. Can't remember how many pieces of glass are on it, but it took me from then till 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, having started at 7, to put all the glass on it.
Most days, Roger commutes in his £500,000 Jet Ranger.
Because we're based in the Midlands, anywhere in England is accessible with a helicopter, and most places I can be there within an hour and a half. So it's an exceedingly good way to get around England. There's always a buzz when it's really nice weather. It's fabulous. I mean, you're flying usually somewhere at around 1,500 feet, so you can see the countryside spread out below you, people waving at you from their gardens. It's a tremendous sensation, and of course it's great if you're flying long distance down to Devon or somewhere. You're seeing all the cars on the motorway all stacked up, and you're busily flying over the top of them doing approximately 150 mile an hour. That's a great buzz. You're thinking, God, I'm glad I'm up here and I'm not stuck in the traffic down there.
Roger took up flying because he injured his back taking part in his favourite sport.
Down and away. Watch number 70, Roger Hedge, and the man that goes into the lead as they go past my commentary position is number 70, Roger Hedge. But
17 years ago, Roger was world champion in powerboat racing.
I went into the race thinking there's only 3 things that can happen. I can either turn over, break down, or win. I wasn't going to put up with anything else. I wasn't going to put up with second. You know, the only place to be is first.
There is the leader, number 70, Roger Hedge, in the Burgess Evinrude boat.
They liken it to driving a car at 100 mile an hour through a ploughed field, and I think that's probably true. Every time you go around a corner or a buoy on a powerboat circuit, it's different. Water's always moving. So it's a different type of technique altogether.
Roger Hedge going very, very quickly indeed.
I put both my psychoiliac joints out in the World Championship, and literally for the whole weekend I took painkillers to kill the pain, but I was just determined that I was going to carry on through this race, and I was going to win it.
We haven't got all that many world champions in this country, but one of them is Roger Hedge, and he's a third of his way on to repeating in 1959.
The boat has been sold, so now he keeps fit in his private gym. And he has his own pool.
I must be absolutely honest and say I don't use it as much as I should do. It's very much, you have to get yourself into a routine and say every morning I'm going to get up, I'm going to swim, and I'm not very good at that.
Was there a moment though when you sat down and said to yourself, well, this week I actually became a millionaire?
No, I don't think that ever happens. It happens very gradually, really. And the ratings also years ago of a millionaire were, was it £1 million in the bank, or was it the ability to make £100,000 a year, which was if you had £1 million in the bank and you made 10%, you made 100,000, that was the equivalent of being a millionaire. Well, I think probably in about my 3rd or 4th year I was making 100,000 a year. Certainly by the age of 30 I was a millionaire.
And could I ask you what you think you personally are worth at the moment?
What I'm personally worth, well, I never really totally up, and of course, as other people have said on your films, it's all dependent on where you are at any point in time. But I suppose if I was able to sell everything at the right price, it would probably come out in excess of maybe 25 million.
Do you sometimes think, when you wake up in the morning, how did I get from those humble beginnings to where I am today with 25 million? I
I do think about it. I never dwell on it. I mean, to be honest, I don't class it probably as being a phenomenal amount of money, not when you see the sort of money that's been made by other people. It's very much harder, I think, as well, to make money in the engineering industry than what it is in some of the more glamorous type of industries.
But you obviously don't have the run-of-the-mill money worries that millions of other people have.
I have had from time to time, and it's a great leveler, really. You know, they always say if you don't have the bad times, you don't know when the good times are there. But no, I mean, we have a nice lifestyle, and the money is usually there to do most things that we want to do within reason. You know, I mean, but I'm not a massive spender on frivolous things, really.
Bank holiday at Uttoxeter Races. Roger is here to sponsor the 435.
I've come to horse racing for a number of years. I enjoy it, and this is a Midland event. We're a Midland engineering company, or Midland based anyway, so I thought that it would be quite a nice thing to do to sponsor the race today. Well, the best one I can go for, I think, is Tough Deal. I've always thought about buying a horse, or a couple of horses, but quite honestly, I just don't have the time. The business takes up far too much of my time. Maybe one day when I've got more time, I'd like to do it. I like the scene. I'm not a great gambler, no. No, I've always reckoned that if I was going to make money, it was going to be off the sweat of my brow, if you like. Not from winning money at horse racing or casinos.
And he wins the SSE Pipe Fittings Handicap Chase. We're delighted to welcome to the winners' enclosure Mr. Roger Hedge. Roger, of course, is chairman of the SSE Pipe Fittings Company. He's accompanied by his partner Jackie. We're going to ask Jackie to present this very handsome engraved decanter to one of the owners of Guildford Valley, Howard Marshall.
Super horse.
Thank you.
Horse ran well.
Oh, didn't he?
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Roger's not mean, but he's certainly nobody's fool. When we go out socially, we always like to apply the principles of good account, make for good friendship. So we always split the bill down the middle, and whatever the percentages of the bill, I will pay as much as he does. I think he's quite proud of what he's achieved. And indeed, he's achieved quite a lot. I don't know many people that are qualified pilots that get up in the morning, fly to work in their own jet helicopter, run a business, run a computer company, run a property company. At the end of that, tend to be very modest about all those achievements. So a very, very interesting guy, yet quite reserved and modest.
What do you spend on yourself?
On myself, clothes, meals, but they're usually things I'm enjoying with other people. I have spent quite a lot of money in the past on cars. Cars were always a driving ambition if you want to own a particular car. This is a Ford GT40. The white one you've seen, that's a Lamborghini Countach. It was called a GT40 because they made them only 40 inches high. Henry Ford Jr. decided that he was going to build cars to win Le Mans, which after 3 years they eventually did. I think Henry Ford actually said, I don't mind if the car's made of solid gold as long as it wins. Noel Edmonds was on a couple of weeks ago on Top Gear, and he was driving one, and he said that he wouldn't sell his for under £500,000, so I guess that's about the same sort of price that I'd put on mine. It handles extremely well, it corners, accelerates fast. It's a dream to drive. I've had it up to touching 200 mile an hour. Not in this country. I've never worked out exactly what it does to the gallon, but I suppose it does something like 10 or 12, I would imagine. I keep them because I love them, really. Yes, I don't have really any intentions of selling them. I hope I don't have to sell them, not unless I want to fund the next investment into the engineering business. Apart from being a businessman, I still enjoy the sale. I like creating a new customer and doing the business with him and it being successfully completed, and it will come back to us time and time again. That's what I like. I really do enjoy that.
Last year, Roger realised the dream he had years ago when he saw James Dean in Giant. He finally broke into the Texan oil business.
I've come here for a meeting with Lee Brown, who's the vice president of this company. I have supplied some product to them already, they've been pleased, and I'm hoping to generate more inquiries and from inquiries orders. They're a very large player in America. The orders will range at probably $1 million order each time. I'm not a workaholic. I think if you're not careful, you can lose sight of the ball if you're a workaholic as well. I think everybody has to have a certain amount of time off. It's what I call recharging your batteries, and I certainly do that.
And he does it where he started out. 3 times a year with his partner Jackie, he goes to his holiday home on the island of Abaco, Bahamas.
From the time that I arrived back in England, I always had a hankering to come back to basically the hot climates. But of course in those days I hadn't got the money. I mean, it was just a pipe dream to even think about coming back to places like this. But I suppose it made me more determined to try and create my own wealth.
We've spent as much as 2 months at one time here, which is lovely. We've never got tired of the Bahamas. We normally put the barbecue on in the evenings, and Roger loves to barbecue. So if he catches any fish or lobsters, then we barbecue them in the evening. It's a 3-bedroomed condominium, so we can have friends here if we want. I love it because it's a lot smaller, obviously, than the home we've got in England, so it's a lot easier to keep. He wants an easy life, basically. He's not an aggressive type, he's very genuine, he's very understanding, and we're a good team.
The islands around here are beautiful. Each one has its own little culture. It's very pleasant. There's always something to do. You don't really get bored here. Well, I've never managed to yet anyway.